Hello again, everybody. This is Bobby Mills for the Independent.com with another version of Bobby Mills Independent Sports Talk. With me, Jimmy Lang, and as usual, Eric Williams over here, Zach Mayhew behind the camera, and this week, as usual, Cornhusker Toyota Honda brings this to you. So let's talk a little college football. What better way to start than about the Huskers? No game this week, but they're in the top 10 for the first time in, 11 years? That's amazing. Number 10, number 9, I'm assuming. I think that's correct. And what thoughts, Eric, on that one? Gee, Merry Christmas.
I look at it kind of in a sense that I looked at Iowa last year. You know, we thought the Oregon game was going to be big, but it turns out that they're not as good as what people thought they were going to be. So we really haven't had a good test yet for being a top 10 team. But this week is going to start a very tough stretch. We'll find out how good this team really is, I think, starting this Saturday.
And Westerkamp may not play. Is that correct, or no? Yeah. Do we know?
Oh, he's not playing at all.
Okay.
He's not even on. He's not going. He's not on the roster. He's not on the top.
Not gonna suit up. Okay.
No. And I don't think he'll play for a while.
I think it's 34 weeks.
Yeah, we'll hope we can get him back. You know, I'm going to look at it a little different. You know, Indiana. If you're basing your team, if you're a top 10 team and you go on the road and you play at Indiana, a team that lost to Wake Forest at home, that's a team you got to beat.
Oh,
but
boy.
Indiana is a good foe for a Nebraska team if they're the 25th best team in the nation, and they could be. That 8 through 25, it's you know, if you look at it, you're not for sure. But Nebraska's in the top 10. This is a game they need to win because they've got 2 other games where they're going to be underdogs in, and it's going to be the Wisconsin game and the Ohio State game where they're going to be an underdog. They're a slight favorite. It's 4. It started out in July. Nebraska was a 10.5-point favorite over Indiana. But it's not that Nebraska got worse. It's that Indiana, they're giving them some credit for some of the people that they played and some wins they had. But I don't know if the Michigan State's that good, people. Let's be honest about that.
I agree with you. Michigan State may not be the caliber that we thought they would be, but they did beat a team in Michigan State that is still probably a top 25 team, I would say, maybe right there at the buffer line. But they also played Ohio State, the toughest that Ohio State's been played thus far, and that was 38-17 loss last week. So they're riding some momentum, I think, going into this game, which makes it a tough challenge, I think. Plus, with the injuries that the Huskers have going out of this bye week is a real tough test going to Indiana, I think.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think Indiana's maybe the 7th best team in the Big Ten. There's 14, you know. So, I mean, you know, when you look at your schedule, I think Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Nebraska are the top 4, and I think it's really close with that next group.
Yeah.
Because who do you think would win between Iowa and Indiana?
I have Indiana right now.
Well, I think whoever the game's played at. If the game's at Indiana, I like Indiana. If the game's at Iowa, I kind of like Iowa. And I think with Nebraska,
kind of the same,
you know, it's kind of like your home field advantage is really important in that sequence. But we'll see. It'll be an interesting game for Nebraska. They played fairly well. Tommy Armstrong Jr. is probable. I think he's going to play.
Yeah.
But it says he's probable on the line right now today. He may not play.
That's scary. I didn't realize that one.
I agree with you. I think he's probably going to play in this, but you also look at it, it's only the second road game that the Huskers have had, too, on this year, too. So, yeah, it's not going to be very easy, I don't think.
And how do we know? It's been 100 years since we've gone to play Indiana on the road.
Is that right?
Well, I don't remember. I mean, we haven't played them in the Big Ten.
No, that's
It must have been when I was a kid, and that's back in the covered wagon days, folks. Anybody, do you think Nebraska does not belong in the top 10? I mean, they're there. There's 100 million voters voting on them.
Well, I think there's a big gap between Texas A&M and the teams below them. You know, I mean, ranked ahead of them. You know, so, you know, you got number 1 Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. You got Texas A&M, you got Louisville, you got Clemson. I think that group's a little bit better than this next tier, and I think Nebraska's in this next tier. But you have to rate the teams that are undefeated.
Oh, definitely.
And maybe one-loss teams that maybe lost to one of those teams I named to. And that's where Wisconsin, is ranked. They're 8th in the nation right now, and they have the 1 loss.
Yeah.
But it's 2 of Michigan, and they've got that win over LSU. And I think LSU might be okay. They've got 2 losses. But some overrated teams that I think we have, Stanford was overrated. You look what's going on with them. Look at Notre Dame.
Who knew it?
Look at Oregon. You know, I mean, look at Texas.
Yep.
You know, there's some teams that are definitely, and I think Michigan State's in that boat too. After Michigan State lost to BYU, Indiana, and Wisconsin, and Michigan State's losing at home.
Yeah, that's true. And, going back to your Wisconsin, they're going to get either Michigan or Ohio State in the Big Ten conference game, unless Nebraska would knock them off.
Yes.
I mean, it's either going to be Nebraska, Wisconsin versus Ohio State and Michigan. So we're going to find out, how good either one of those teams are when they got to face those two teams. But, yeah, I agree with you on the overrated. I think Notre Dame was incredibly overrated just because I think probably the name had a lot to do with it. I think with Texas, it was the same way. Oklahoma, you look at all those big names, USC at the beginning of the year, it was a name recognition. And that's why I really don't care for preseason polls all that much. There's really nothing to go on in that situation besides maybe the name or what they did last year.
I agree with the name recognition. I really think that's true about Oklahoma. Oklahoma lost to Houston and lost to Ohio State, and they've kind of struggled a little bit in a couple other games. And Oklahoma was in name recognition. Even though they made it to the Final Four, I think, they lost some players. Ohio State lost a lot of players, though.
But still.
And they were kind of a name recognition team. So they get in there, but prove it.
Yeah.
That prove it. Hold it. Look at our recruiting. Look what we've done. Our name recognition. I don't think Stanford was name recognition. I think Stanford proved they won the Rose Bowl 45-6 or something like that over an Iowa team. They played really well. They won the Pac-10. They got to go to the Rose Bowl, and they're just having a bad year.
Boy, that's kind of scary. Well, we're going to jump quickly. There's right to my left. We've got a baseball game going on here, and I know this is going to hurt. What about those Red Sox losing in the first? That's a shock to me, a little bit.
It was to me. I had picked them to make a run to the World Series, but they ran into a Cleveland team, and when you look at that Cleveland team without Kluber as their ace, I mean, he was out. They still got it done. They got by Porcello and was able to get games done, and then to go into Boston last night and win it. It's incredible, but I still think that the AL is still going to be tough going through Toronto. I think that's going to be a phenomenal series, but right now I'd say Toronto may have that edge in that series.
They sure got some home run hitters, don't they?
They do.
And last year, if you remember, Toronto had the best record, I think, in Major League Baseball in the American League. The Royals and them were playing, so it was kind of interesting that Toronto, and sometimes we forget about a team, that you're going, whoa, what about them? And look at the Giants. I mean, every other year they're pretty tough too.
Yeah.
So
Every other year is right.
Yeah, right.
But I will say, does Toronto sweeping that series on Sunday and having off until Friday hurt a hot team like that at the plate? I mean, I just think that could be the one downfall, I think, for a Toronto team is having that much time off between games.
Yeah, it's some, you don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you really don't. You get to rest your pitchers, you get to have stuff. So, I mean, you just don't know how they're going to react to it. You get really good pitching, and you got all these guys you get to rest because, they had to play in the wild card game and they won that. And
Yeah.
was it extra innings or
That
not?
was a walk-off in the ninth, I believe.
Okay, yeah, okay. And anyway, so they ended up winning, but they had to win. They were playing for home field advantage. They were trying to get into the wild card. They never got to rest anybody
Right.
from about September 20th on because they were trying to just get in to this playoff system at all.
Right.
Every game was so critical. They were fighting with Detroit to see if they could get in this thing. So now they get to rest. Maybe they need the 4 days. We'll see.
And what about this game going on right here? Giants winning 13 innings. Now the Cubs up 1-0, I see maybe. Boy.
San Francisco's up 1-0.
Oh, San Francisco is?
Yeah.
Oh, mercy. So
Yeah.
if they win, they go back to Chicago? Is
You're
that
right,
Yeah.
that's right.
And then that's it, right?
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
the deciding game 5. I will say that I think the one thing that happened last night, I mean, the Giants did win the series. I don't know if that's really a concern for the Cubs, but I think the one concern you do have is that 8th and 9th inning when they were able to get to Chapman. And I think to have that in the back of your mind as a Giant hitter that we can hit this guy, you're going to have some confidence going up there. I think they kind of lost an edge that they had in the back end of this game. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out tonight. I know it's a 1-0 game right now, but how's that bullpen react to Chapman getting hit a little bit last night? It'll be interesting.
And you know what else was in? Who hit the home run, the 3-run homer to give the Cubs the lead?
That would be Arrieta.
And
How about that?
And now you're going head to head with the pitcher, and you both got like an earned run average of 1.00.
Yeah.
And then you're the guy that says, hey, you know, I don't think anybody scored off you, but
Right.
watch me take a swing at this. You
Yeah,
know?
and they want to eliminate pitchers hitting.
Yeah,
too,
so you know, they get up and see both those two pitchers
Yeah,
can hit.
they can
if
hit.
you're really honest about it. So it'll be interesting to see who pitches in Game 5.
I gotta think
If it goes
probably.
game five.
I think you'd probably have Bumgarner in the bullpen because they did it. The last run that they had Bumgarner coming out of the pen late in the games that they needed him. But I think if it goes Game 5, I think it's Lester Cueto starting those.
I
that
think so,
game
too.
So
I'm not. I hope the Cubs. Giants are just spoilers, but it's every other year. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Last and not least, but Dodgers and Washington. What about that series, gentlemen? Anybody have any good words about that? That's geez.
surprising, I'd say.
I didn't even say the Dodgers. I didn't think they'd be there.
I guess what's more surprising to me was that Toronto won 3-0 and that Cleveland won 3-0. Then it is these other two. These looks like these are going to go 2-2.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so when you talk about time off, both teams have time off.
Well, that's
Now the Indians don't have time, and these two they could be going into using some of their best pitchers, starters, to try to win a Game 5, and they're both limping into the playoffs. You know, the final playoffs.
Here's the one thing I got with Washington, and this is why I call it surprising, is Washington, the Nationals have been bragged up the last 3 or 4 years that the strength of that team has been the starting pitching. You've got Scherzer, Strasburg, all those guys, Rourke, but yet none of those guys are making it past the 4th, 5th inning, and they don't have a lead going into those either. So what's getting it done right now for Washington is the bottom half of that order with Worth and guys that really hadn't hit all year and the back end of that bullpen. That's why I'd say it's kind of surprising that they have a 2-2 tie with the Dodgers. I really thought it was going to be a sweep by the Dodgers.
I did too, and that's a scary thing to have
Yeah.
guys coming through like that. How long can it last? I don't know. So I think we've covered all we want to cover about Major League Baseball and college football. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we hope to see you next time. We're going to talk about a little volleyball next time up. So until next time, from Edub over here, this is Edub, not over there. Jimmy Langan, Zach Maynard behind the camera. We'll catch you next time.